Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by the following: IU Health Southern Indiana physicians, primary care and specialty care providers now accepting new patients in Bloomington and throughout South Central Indiana. siphysicians.org, IU Center for Applied Cybersecurity Research, working to improve cybersecurity and provide policy guidance through partnerships with industry, government, and academia.
Smithville Fiber, the Gigacity Company, fiber internet, HD, and digital IPTV in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com.
And by WTIU members. Thank you.
Coming up on Indiana Newsdesk, Daniel Messel could spend the rest of his life behind bars after a jury convicted him this week of the beating death of IU student Hannah Wilson.
I needed him off the streets. He needed to be off the streets.
Coming up, the evidence that convinced the jury and what to expect at Messel's sentencing next month. Plus, a handful of cities, including Bloomington, Columbus, and Indianapolis, are being sued over their anti-discrimination policies. Do they violate the state's controversial RFRA law? A legal expert joins us to explain. And how do you define local craft beer?
Just because a hop variety grows really well here doesn't necessarily mean that that's a variety that the brewers want.
Those stories, plus the latest news headlines from across the state, right now on Indiana Newsdesk. Welcome to Indiana Newsdesk. I'm Joe Wren. Well, we have a lot in this week's show, but first we're going to go to headlines. My colleague Barbara Brozier joins us now for the latest on this week's top stories.
Thanks, Joe. Mike Pence is dismissing the reaction to Donald Trump's assertion that President Barack Obama is the founder of ISIS as a media-driven controversy over semantics. Obama did not establish the Islamic State group. Pence says Obama and Hillary Clinton's policies, however, led to the rise of ISIS. He says the pair undid hard-fought gains in Iraq by withdrawing troops and creating a vacuum for the group to flourish. A Vigo County judge has ordered the release of a man accused of intentionally spreading HIV for more than a decade and delayed his trial until February because some documents and witnesses were not shared with the defense sooner. Isaiah Benford of Terre Haute walked out of the Vigo County Jail yesterday while he awaits trial on 27 criminal counts, including aggravated battery and failure to warn his partners of his HIV-positive status. The prosecutor says motions filed and records requested by the defense resulted in a large amount of evidence being turned over to the defendant just within the last couple of weeks. Well, it will be a few months before a federal judge hears arguments in a Planned Parenthood lawsuit that challenges an Indiana ultrasound mandate. The law that went into effect earlier this year requires women to undergo an ultrasound at least 18 hours before having an abortion. Planned Parenthood of Kentucky, Indiana sued the state, arguing the mandate is unconstitutional. A judge will hear the case in November. County prosecutors across the state of Indiana were advised that hundreds of cases statewide could be at risk due to potential false reports from one psychologist. An arrest warrant was issued for Bloomington psychologist Albert Fink last Friday. Fink crashed his car on his way to testify for a case. He told the state trooper he was worried that if he testified, he could be caught for falsifying his report. Fink has been an expert in hundreds of cases statewide. The Lifeline law provides immunity from underage drinking charges to minors who seek help for themselves or others, and it applies not just to those who call 911, but those who text it as well. The chair of the statewide 911 board says texting allows dispatchers to more easily follow up on 911 hangups. Text to 911 services reached all counties last month. Currently, less than 1% of 911 communications are via text. Well, city parks are places where residents should feel welcome, but two Indiana communities say a spike in crime at public spaces is threatening people's sense of security, and they're taking different approaches to address the issues.
It's not unusual to walk down Kirkwood Avenue in Bloomington and have someone ask you for money. Panhandling is legal in Indiana when the sun is up, but Bloomington's mayor says some of the people asking for help are becoming increasingly aggressive.
I have parks employees who feel the need for police support as they go about their work in some downtown parks.
Bloomington police say there's been an increase in violence this summer. Many of the problems are happening in certain spots along the Beeline Trail and in 2 parks where large groups of homeless people and panhandlers congregate. Police are increasing their presence downtown and installing video cameras in problem areas to try and address the issues.
People have a right to go to a park and sit. If they want to sit all day, they can. I mean, that's what they're for. What we're going to try to address is the illegal behavior.
It's one of several steps the city of Bloomington is taking to make its public spaces safer. Terre Haute experienced similar problems at Gilbert Park.
It was people who were just kind of hanging out at the park. And so when we had some police activity there, we've had to make some arrests.
There were more than 20 police calls over the past couple of weeks until the city made a change.
We decided to remove the park benches or the picnic tables from the 2 shelters we have there.
Crime is already down in that area by more than 80%.
And both cities are working with social service agencies to try and help the homeless populations. Indiana is one of only 5 states in the country without any bias or hate crime language in its laws. Democratic Senator Greg Taylor of Indianapolis is proposing a bill that would create an automatic enhancement to hate crimes. The bill would make misdemeanors felonies and raise each felony 1 level. Taylor's proposal also includes training for police on how to recognize and investigate bias crimes. Training exercises involving about 13,000 soldiers are taking place at Camp Atterbury. Military officials are warning about additional gunfire and explosions coming from the base near Edinburgh. Exercises are scheduled through the next week. Indiana is turning to the private sector for help as the state prepares for an I-69 bridge linking Indiana and Kentucky. INDOT is accepting bids through mid-September for the bridge's environmental study and early design proposals. The span will link Evansville and Henderson, Kentucky. Private consultants have been involved in the study and design of the entire Interstate 69 extension that will eventually run between Evansville and Indianapolis. $14 million pledged by Indiana Governor Mike Pence and Kentucky Governor Matt Bevin will go toward paying for the expected 3-year study. The Centers for Disease Control is sending $3.6 million Indiana's way so the state's health department can better monitor the Zika virus in both humans and mosquitoes. More than half of that money will go to tracking birth defects, most notably microcephaly, which affects babies of mothers who have contracted the virus. 27 people in Indiana have contracted Zika, but all those cases were picked up while the person was traveling. Experts say the odds of local transmission of Zika are slim since the type of mosquito that carries it isn't native to Indiana. A hospital in Indianapolis is working to get the overdose antidote naloxone into the hands of those who need it. A half-dozen nurses from around Indiana attended a training event over the weekend at the Community Health Network. About a half-dozen more training sessions will be open to the public over the next few months at community health locations in central Indiana. People will be able to learn about the signs and symptoms of an overdose, and they'll get free naloxone kits and directions on how to use them. Well, Indiana is on a streak of lackluster beginnings to its fiscal years under Governor Mike Pence. In the 4 starts to a fiscal year during the Pence administration, the state's tax collections came in less than projected in each one. Now this year, it's less than 1% lower than expected. Individual income taxes in July were nearly $20 million better than projections, but corporate income taxes fared poorly, more than 45% less than expectations. July also marked another off month for sales taxes, which came in $18 million below target. A panel is continuing to work on the tests that will replace the I-STEP. A state law passed earlier this year killed the I-STEP in its current form. One proposal included creating a personal system for each student to determine if they're ready to graduate. Others advised against that idea, saying the ACT and SAT were designed to help colleges determine whether a student is ready to enter a university, not to determine whether they're ready to leave high school. The United States Department of Agriculture is expecting a large supply of corn and soybeans this year. More supply for the same crop might mean lower prices at the grocery store, but it also means less money for farmers. The USDA says 53% of Indiana corn is in good condition, with 20% considered excellent, both slightly above the 2015 national average. Last year, bad weather lowered grain prices in Indiana more than elsewhere in the Midwest. A Kokomo bridge will be named in honor of a Howard County deputy who died in the line of duty earlier this year. The span over Wildcat Creek will be named Carl A. Kuntz Memorial Bridge under a resolution approved by Howard County commissioners. Kuntz was shot March 20th in nearby Rushville while trying to arrest a 25-year-old man who was later found dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound to his head. And that bridge dedication is August 17th.
Okay, thank you, Barbara. Daniel Messel will find out next month how much time he will spend in prison for the murder of IU student Hannah Wilson last April. A jury convicted Messel this week, and as Becca Costello reports, Wilson's family says this conviction is an important step as they work toward healing and closure.
It's been more than a year since Hannah's body was found in a vacant lot in rural Brown County. Her parents worked closely with prosecutors every step of the way as they built their case against Daniel Messel, all culminating in 6 days of emotional witness testimony. Robin and Jeff Wilson attended every day of the trial, seeing surveillance footage and bloody clothing that prosecutors used to prove their case. They say it was difficult to get through, but it was important not to miss it.
It was important that myself and our family, Hannah's friends, were here to speak for her because an evil person took that right away from her.
About 25 people joined Hannah's parents in the courtroom during the trial, including Hannah's stepmom and her younger sister, Haley. But a lot of support came from outside of the courtroom as well, from friends and family following the trial from all over the country.
We had a huge outpouring of support from social media and all our friends through Facebook and Instagram and all that kind of stuff. So I wouldn't have missed it for the world.
It's not officially over yet. Most of Hannah's family will come back to Brown County on September 22nd to find out how long 50-year-old Messel will serve in prison. He faces up to 85 years. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Becca Costello.
And Becca Costello joins us now. Becca, you followed the case inside the courtroom. I understand Daniel Messel faces up to 85 years in prison, but how is that sentence actually determined?
So murder in Indiana has a sentence of between 45 and 65 years. But in this case, jurors decided that Messel, since he's been convicted of other felonies in the past, they can add up to 20 years onto that sentence. So that's where we get to that 85 maximum for Daniel Messel.
So why aren't prosecutors seeking life without parole or the death penalty in this case?
Well, those sentences are both options in Indiana for murder cases, but it has to fit one of 17 aggravating circumstances. And those are things that prosecutors will look at. For example, if the victim was a child or if the victim was sexually assaulted. But none of those circumstances fit this particular case, so those weren't options.
So, as we said, you were there in the courtroom. What ultimately convinced the jury of Messel's guilt, do you think?
Well, prosecutors kept coming back to one really key piece of evidence, and that was Daniel Messel's cell phone, which was actually found at the scene of the crime, very close to Hannah Wilson's body. And they say they were able to identify who Daniel Messel was, and that led him to his house, where they found Hannah's blood spattered over his car and on his clothing. So they say if they hadn't found that phone, they likely wouldn't have been able to find Messel as quickly as they did.
So now Messel pleaded not guilty, though. So what did he argue to try to prove his innocence?
That's right. Now, Messel didn't actually take the stand, so he didn't address the jury at all during the trial, but his defense attorney kept coming back to this unknown DNA. This is DNA that they found at the scene of the crime and on Messel's clothing, but it didn't match Hannah Wilson and it didn't match Daniel Messel either. So their question was, who does that DNA belong to? They were implying that there was some third person involved who did kill Hannah, but they couldn't offer any suggestions about who that would be. And so they were saying prosecutors didn't do a complete investigation, that they should have followed up on some of that DNA, and that they were negligent negligent in not doing so. And ultimately they said that they weren't sure what his motivation would be, and that's just one of those things that we may never know. Why did Hannah get in the car? What was his motivation for killing her? And those are things we may never know.
All right, well, thank you very much, Becca. Appreciate it. Coming up next on Indiana Newsdesk. Indiana has more than 100 local breweries, but it's difficult to find local ingredients. Coming up, a report on hops production and what some lawmakers want to do to encourage more farmers to raise hops. And find out why a 95-year-old man in Terre Haute is being honored with the German equivalent of the Medal of Freedom. These stories and more right here on Indiana Newsdesk.
Nature takes you places where you've never gone before.
It's watching something that's actually happened.
Nature sure draw me in the story.
Just their power and their grace.
You know, it was just so beautiful to watch them.
The movement and just watching the body and watching the chase.
Like this huge, lush, vibrant watercolor.
Gems.
There was such a shot of underneath watching these elephants swim in this deep water.
I had no idea even they could swim like that.
I saw one monkey pulling on this one monkey's tail, and the monkey like, man, what you doing? What you doing?
It's like the theater of the wild or something.
7 billion trillion animals living on one planet.
It's like more colorful than than you think life can possibly be.
Somewhere between the mystique and the beauty of it is reason enough to sit down and watch.
That's life, and that's nature.
Welcome back to Indiana Newsdesk. Well, many cities in Indiana are passing human rights ordinances that protect gender identity and sexual orientation in the wake of RFRA. Bloomington, Columbus, and Indianapolis have all passed such ordinances. And since then, a lawsuit was filed to challenge these ordinances. Joining us now to help understand the complaint and its goals is Professor Daniel Conkle of the Maurer School of Law at Indiana University. Thank you once again for being here.
Glad to be here, Joe.
So what is this lawsuit trying to accomplish?
Well, it's incredibly complicated and somewhat convoluted. Essentially, we had the Indiana legislature last spring pass the original Indiana Religious Freedom Restoration Act, which provided a general standard to protect religious freedom. We all remember there was a huge firestorm by critics believing that it might be used improperly to justify discrimination, especially against gays, lesbians, transgender people. And in reaction to that, the legislature did not repeal RFRA. It remains on the books to protect religious freedom in various settings, but the legislature enacted the so-called fix, which excluded from RFRA and the protection of RFRA most anti-discrimination claims, including claims by folks who claim they have been discriminated against based on gender identity or sexual orientation. This lawsuit came in response to the fix. It was originally filed back in December, and it was against Carmel and Indianapolis, and then Columbus and Bloomington were added in January. The lawsuit is brought by 3 conservative nonprofit groups, basically contending that the fix itself is unconstitutional because it's discriminating in favor of certain religious claims over others, and as a result, the original RFRA is still in place, and under the original RFRA, the local ordinances violate the original RFRA and therefore cannot be enforced against this group. So it's an incredibly convoluted lawsuit.
So I've talked with the mayors of Bloomington and Columbus. Both stand behind their ordinance, and they don't seem concerned at all about this lawsuit. Do you think that that's a good reaction for them to have?
Well, I think the lawsuit is unlikely to succeed, essentially because legislatures have and must have broad discretion in crafting religious freedom law, exemption laws, permitting religious exemptions in some cases but not others. That being said, stranger things have happened, and this lawsuit is being brought by a lawyer, James Bopp, who is extremely prominent, has succeeded, has argued cases in the U.S. Supreme Court. So it's not a frivolous case. I think it's unlikely to succeed. More to the point, there will be a hearing next week in the state court that is considering this case, dealing with a number of procedural issues that might prevent the lawsuit ever from being heard on its merits.
So in just 30 seconds, if this case is dismissed or doesn't go anywhere, do you expect that to kind of be the end all?
I think if the case is dismissed on procedural grounds, then I think it's highly likely that the challengers will appeal on those procedural grounds, taking it up at least to the Indiana Court of Appeals. Whether they would try to take it further, I think, remains to be seen. If the case is not dismissed, it will go forward, and the court will then have to resolve the case on its merits.
All right, thank you. We'll keep an eye on it, and we have to end it right there. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Indiana is well known for its growing selection of craft beer with around 125 local breweries and counting. However, the amount of craft beer in the state doesn't come close to the production of the local hops. WTIU's James Vavrick tells us how hops farmers are picking up the pace on production and how Hoosiers are helping the cause.
While you may not think you can grow your own beer, Nashville resident Mike Brooks is doing just that. He lives on a farm just south of State Road 46, where he developed 2 sizable patches of hops over the course of 3 years.
With the explosion of craft beer, we thought that hops might be a good crop that would be a nice fit for our place here.
Indiana is home to an impressive market for beer lovers across the state. Some breweries are even selling on a national scale. They use massive amounts of hops in their brewing process, but how much of that comes from Indiana soil? Some of Indiana's top brewers are saying it's not much, and it's for a good reason.
We have a lot of people who contact us yearly. Hey, we've got some extra acreage and we want to grow some hops. That's fantastic, but we need to make sure that we know some basic information, alpha acids, all those kinds of things that we get from our national providers, so that we can accurately and intelligently make beer and know what it's going to be like toward the finished product.
Dave Colt and Clay Robinson are co-founders of Indy's Sun King Brewing. They say most of their hops come from the Pacific Northwest, an area that flourishes with hops harvesting on an industrial level.
While we have the ability to grow hops, the infrastructure isn't here to actually package and process hops so that they have storage, shelf life, and stability.
Most farms in Indiana, like Brooks Farm in Nashville, harvest their hops whole coned.
They're using the whole bloom, and they can only really use that when the season is in. So it's a short window.
The missing link in producing hops on a larger, more long-term scale is a process called pelletizing. This process turns the whole bloom plant into tiny pellets, perfect for packaging and a sustainable shelf life. But Senator John Ford is trying to make it more enticing for Indiana breweries to use Hoosier hops. He's proposed a bill that would provide tax incentives for breweries that use over 20% of their resources from a local source.
We're trying to help breweries stay local, to help them innovate. And there's this little subculture of people out there that are growing hops, growing specialty barleys to help the brewers out.
The tax incentive promotes collaborations with both brewers and farmers who support the legislation.
Oh, I think it's fantastic, and it's something that will be very beneficial to the local farmers and just the craft beer scene in general.
I think it's always a good idea to incentivize using local whenever possible, so we would take advantage of it.
Colt says hops farming is in its infancy stages in Indiana, and it will take collaboration for it to become as popular as the beer it helps produce. But for now, Brooks and his farm find value in the smaller overnight batches. He said he made the conscious decision to sell whole cone hops to give local breweries the opportunities to make fresh hopped harvest ales, which wouldn't otherwise be possible.
The logistics of overnighting fresh hops from the Pacific Northwest to Indiana to get them in the beer is very difficult.
Mike will host a big harvesting event later this month where community members will pick hops and send them to Brown County's Quaffon Brewing to brew overnight. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm James Vavrick.
The Indiana Hop Growers Association is working in conjunction with researchers from Purdue's Horticulture Department that hope to localize the infrastructure to promote local hops growing and distribution. And the highest honor a civilian can receive in Germany is the Cross of the Order of Merit of the Federal Republic of Germany. As J.D. Grays reports, a 95-year-old docent at the Candles Holocaust Museum in Terre Haute received the award Saturday.
Walter Summers received the award for promoting peace and tolerance through Holocaust education. Around 50 people came to see the award ceremony.
And Terre Haute has a unique privilege of having a walking history book among us. with a tremendously sharp mind.
The president of Germany granted the award, and it was pinned to Walter's lapel by German Consul General Herbert Quell. Summers says he was surprised to receive the letter notifying him of the honor.
I'm not sure I deserved it all, but they think I do, because rather than tearing Germany down when people visit, I'll show them that, well, all this bad stuff was a result of the bad treatment Germany got in the Treaty of Versailles.
Summers fled to the U.S. from Germany in 1939 after his family's business was burnt down and his father was temporarily put in a concentration camp. Summers speaks at the museum twice a week about German history and the Holocaust. He's known for adapting his presentations. He incorporates the books he reads and his audience.
Whenever we have European people come in, we had a woman from Austria the other day come in. Walter immediately makes a personal connection with them, saying, I'm a German citizen. He immediately starts a conversation, and he adapts whatever information he has available to their story.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm J.D. Gray.
And that's the end of this program, but our work continues online at WTIUnews.org. Have a great weekend.
Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by the following: IU Health Southern Indiana physicians, primary care and specialty care providers, now accepting new patients in Bloomington and throughout South Central Indiana. SIphysicians.org, IU Center for Applied Cybersecurity Research, working to improve cybersecurity and provide policy guidance through partnerships with industry, government, and academia.
Smithville Fiber, the Gigacity Company, fiber internet, HD, and digital IPTV in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com.
And by WTIU members. Thank you.